Hey, welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. I'm at my headquarters north right now, the place with electricity and running water. And so I get to make a video that's a little bit easier to upload. This channel is about preparedness in all its forms, whether that be, establishing a community, a retreat, or just spiritual preparedness, physical preparedness. And today what I want to talk about is something I saw in the news, and you all have seen it too. You're savvy. The gun shows, right? My goodness, there's people lined up around the block for hours before the gun show opens. The parking lots are full. You get into them, and I'm not going to them. You get into them, and evidently, guns are flying off the counters, the tables. Gun stores are sold out. Trying to buy a gun or ammo right now is difficult. It's difficult physically, waiting in line and that kind of thing, and it's difficult financially because due to the scarcity, due to the high demand, prices are going up. It's the American way. And so, on the one hand, it gives me hope. People are afraid, concerned that the government is going to try and ban guns. They are. And so they're stocking up now. Well, that gives me hope, right? They're not rolling over and saying, okay, you can have them. It also kind of gives me cause for concern because the government knows what it's doing. The people know what they're doing. And it looks to me like there might be a showdown coming. Probably do a video on that later. Bottom line on this, I'll leave the bottom line for that video. And so people are out there buying. Here's the deal. If you don't have your firearm now, you're behind the power curve, big time. And so we need to be smarter than that. And so it got me thinking, hey, what should we be looking at? What should you, because I'm kind of got my bases covered, what should you be looking at to get next so you can get it ahead of the rush, before the prices go up, before the lines are around the block and stuff like that? I wrote a book, Survivalist Family, here. You can get it on Amazon, or you can get it from survivalistfamily.com, signed by me. But in this book, I tell you, let's see, can you see a picture? It's a good picture. I tell you how to prepare your family for all kinds of things. Basic preparedness covers a myriad of conditions. And this is the kind of book that you need to get and read now, so that you can kind of look ahead and take steps now to be ready for things. This is not the survival manual that you stick in your bug out bag or in your shelter or something and read it. You'll cry if you read it after the emergency. You're like, oh, I should have done that, I should have done that. And so I give you ideas of things to do, but let's talk about some of those right now. What's going to be short next, right? What do you want to get out ahead of? A couple things, I think. One is gasoline. Gasoline. I really like Southern Prepper One's scenario videos, and I was gonna go shoot, I just don't have time right now, a homage to him, and I was gonna do a scenario video of using the last bit of gas. But here's the deal. Picture your car parked in your driveway, and it's not going anywhere. And it's not going anywhere because you don't have any gas, because first gas was incredibly expensive, and then people bought all the gas that was there at incredibly expensive rates. It's kind of funny. Jack the price up 3 times and people will buy it all. You panic them. They're like sheep. They're like a stampede of lemmings off the cliff. But picture your car parked in there, and at first you bought expensive gas, and now there's no gas to be found at all. And nobody has gas. Wow. So I suggest you get some gas. How much gas? You can't buy a lifetime supply of gas, but you should have enough gas to get you to your bug out location, and maybe with like a 50% overage, so that you can go different ways or avoid roadblocks or things like that. So you might want to consider that. And there are safe ways to store gasoline. I talk about that in my book. You can find it online. Talk to people who store gas. There's a way to do that. So gasoline. But check this out. Gas is a temporary solution. Picture the whole country, no gas for people, or horrible gas rationing or something like that. Bottom line is you can't get gas. What are people going to do? They're going to use bicycles. They're going to use hand carts, those big garden carts with the bicycle wheels on them. And so do you think the price of those things is going to go up? Oh yes, it's going to. Why don't you go get a couple bicycles now? Get some baskets for your bicycle, some back racks for the bicycles. Buy some inner tubes, extra inner tubes, and the tools to fix. They're cheap now. They're incredibly cheap right now. I have a very capable Huffy mountain bike that has, like, I don't know, 20 gears on it or something. It cost me $70 brand new a couple years ago. Is it a Trek? No. But you know what? I went riding in the woods with a guy who was on a $4,000 trek, and I tore him up. All right, not because I was in better shape than he was, but the bottom line is it'll get things done. And if you have no bike, a cheap bike is great. So I recommend you get bicycles, get the tools that go with them and stuff like that. Get baskets for the long-term transportation needs. Precious metals. You know, this one right here was sent to me by a brother, and can you see that? And this is copper. Copper's cheaper than silver. You know, silver's cheaper than gold. You should probably sock some away, because when our dollar fails, and it's gonna fail, the price of gold, silver, all precious metals, copper is just gonna skyrocket. And so you'll be holding real value as opposed to those paper dollars that just go whoof and disappear. And so you might want to get some PMs now before the price goes up. You know, it's funny right now, gold, and I haven't watched it for a while, but gold is, you know, $1,600–1,700 an ounce, somewhere in there. Gold goes to $2,000 an ounce, you won't be able to buy any, because everybody will be buying it. How smart is that? Maybe you should be selling some then that you bought, you know, at $350 an ounce, something like that. So think about precious metals. Excuse me. Some other things you might want to consider, because it's one of my personal feelings, thoughts. Water is going to become scarce. Now, you cannot stockpile enough water. But what you can do is stockpile some, and you can stockpile or, you know, gather the supplies, start setting it up now to capture rainwater. You can hand dig a well in some places, you can have a well drilled in some places, things like that. But you ought to start thinking about water. Have you ever seen in Asia, they have that bamboo pole that goes out across their shoulder, and they carry 2 big baskets or buckets? That's a great way to carry 2 5-gallon buckets from the golf course, you know, that's 3 blocks down, where you go out and get water out of the pond and bring it back and stick it in your big Berkey filter. You got one of those yet? Do you need a big Berkey? No, but it makes life easier. You know, you can also boil water, yada, yada, yada. Have you tried boiling a big pot of water? There's a lot to be learned when you start doing these things. It's like, well, I'll just go out in the backyard and use the barbecue and boil water. I suggest you go try it. You'll learn a couple things. 1, you want a really big pot. 2, you're going to need a pretty good fire. And 3, you're going to have a way to support that pot. So the way you find out these things is by practicing now. But I think water is going to be a problem. And so, you know, I've given you a couple things: bicycles, gasoline, PMs, water. There's more. But the bottom line is, start thinking. Don't react. Act. You know, be proactive, not reactive. Start thinking ahead, start looking ahead, start reading those tea leaves, and start deciding what kind of things do you need to do to set yourself up, your loved ones up, for the times that are fast approaching. You know, yeah, they're at the doorstep, and so you need to take some steps now. Again, shameless plug for my book. I give you all kinds of ideas in Survivalist Family. If you're not, it's basic preparedness to intermediate preparedness is what I would say the book is. If you've already got your basics and your intermediate preparedness covered, you don't need my book. I'm being honest. But if you're kind of new to this, I've got some good ideas in there, and I think they'll benefit you, whether you buy my book or not. You know, whatever. Please start thinking ahead. Don't be one of the sheeple that stampedes and waits in line for whatever the next shortage thing is. Already have that, and be going for the next thing that's going to be short. I'll see you out there.